Good afternoon, Center for Spiritual Living Ocala, friends and family. I am Reverend Cindy Grimes, and I'm so glad to welcome you. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We've got a great program ahead of us. For those of you who are first time with us, joining us, I want to tell you a little bit about who we are about. So here we go. Here is the Center for Spiritual Living list of values. And today we're going to be talking a lot about values. If you saw the title of our talk, we're going to be talking about the voter guide and the values and vision of Centers for Spiritual Living. And we are just one of many centers for spiritual living that are located all over the United States and the world. And these are our values at this particular Center for Spiritual Living. Number one, spiritual growth and practice. We value love, appreciation, community, freedom, creativity, health and wholeness, generosity, and financial well-being. The values of an organization are so important. I'm also a Toastmaster. In every meeting of Toastmasters, we speak our values, we speak what our vision and our mission is. And so people know if this is something that they want to be affiliated with. So it's important to know the values. And you can see that number one for us is spiritual growth and practice. That is why we come together, so that we can all grow spiritually as individuals and collectively. So we're going to be talking a lot about that today. And our mission and our vision is the same as the larger organization. Our mission here at the Center for Spiritual Living is to provide spiritual tools for personal and global transformation. Our purpose is to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence, meaning we believe that every individual is part of this thing we call God. And that's what we are here to express and to be everything that we can be. Our vision is a world that works for everyone. And we're going to be talking about vision as well. So let's take this out of here for now. And I'm going to invite in our practitioners. I see one of our practitioners. Hello, Donna.
Hello. And there's Mama.
And there's the other one. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's so great to see you.
Yes.
Love your mandala there in the back.
Oh, isn't she beautiful?
Yes. Yes. She is gorgeous. So are you going to pray us in? You always do such a fabulous job praying us in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's my pleasure to do that.
Yeah. So you know what we're all about today, right?
It's
actually a historic kind of a thing. This is the first time that Centers for Spiritual Living has created a guide for voting that is really based on, what are our values, what's important to us, and not to tell people how to vote, but just to really get them thinking about their values, because I don't think it matters which side of the political spectrum you're on. This is probably the most important election of our lifetimes. So we want to do it really consciously and mindfully. So anyway, that's what our guest is going to be. We're going to be talking about that, plus some other things. And I'm just really excited. So take it away, Donna.
Okay. And thank you guys so much for joining us today. I am so ecstatic about today's topic because I feel as if I am in a whirlwind. And so it's so nice to be able to come back to the consciousness of it all. So I invite you now to just go with me, go within and go for this spiritual mind treatment or a training of the mind to connect to the oneness. And it is from this moment that I take a few deep breaths, just allowing the oxygen to get into my body and do its thing. And ramp up my immune system with those wonderful deep breaths. Getting myself aware and focused and connected to my physical form as I sit on this couch in my home. And as I breathe deeply, I start and begin by saying that I recognize the allness of the one. one cause, one substance, one creativity, one mind, one love, one life energy that permeates all things. And I title that energy God because that term comes easily to me because of my history and background. I invite you to title it whatever you'd like to title it, whatever feels right within you, in your spirit. I recognize that God is everywhere. It's the up and it's the down, it's the inside, the outside. It is all things, and it's the space between all things. And this divine intelligence permeates all beings, but is not swallowed up by any one thing. This essence that is life itself coursing through my veins. I sit in the divine presence that is God. I allow that divine presence to beat my heart and pump my blood and turn my cells over as I sit in this space that is God. I am a part of it. I am one with it. I am the divine representation of it as Donna, sitting in this space. And as my lungs breathe in the expression that is God and breathe out that same expression that is God, I know that is true for each and every person on the planet, beyond this solar system, forever expanding and expanding beyond even where my mind can comprehend, where science hasn't even touched. I know that this same divine presence exists everywhere and within all things. It is from that space of oneness and connection that I also know the same is true for where Reverend Cindy sits, where Reverend Sarah sits, that all of us exist. And so today, as we tackle this subject of voting, we know that divine consciousness is speaking to consciousness. As we start to pick apart this thing, this construct that we call life, this experience that is humanity, this experience that is called democracy, as we pull it apart in a conscious way and look at it and connect to our heart space. And the Spirit speaks to Reverend Sarah today to bring these ideas to us in this beautiful form, through this beautiful energy center that is Reverend Sarah. I know that truth is spoken when my heart is open to it. And I take what works for me as medicine, as salve for my own consciousness, for my own being, to be able to say, yes, I can step with confidence into that voting booth, knowing that Spirit is moving forth through me, as me, connecting to everyone else. And the divine unfoldment for this country is happening. Beautiful expression. I'm grateful for all of this. I'm grateful for the lessons learned today. I'm grateful for how we all show up for ourselves and for our country. And I celebrate as it expresses and overflows with joy and knowledge. And we have an upward lifting of humanity that occurs just with that moment of voting. And so I release my words into the law, knowing that the law is always working for the betterment of every single person. I release it into the law, knowing that it's already done. So it is. So I let it be.
And so it is, and so we let it be.
So
Yes, thank you. The divine unfoldment that is uplifting humanity. Yeah, love it. And we are part of that. Oh, thank you so much, Donna. You're such a bright light.
Thank you. I'm so glad, honored to be a part of this whole thing, and I can't wait. I think it's going to be really yummy today.
It is going to be really yummy. I'm super excited. So thank you, Donna.
You're welcome.
We'll see you later.
Yes, I'll
Yes.
be here.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So, dear ones, let me tell you about our guest today, her bio. Reverend Sara Nichols is a minister with the Sacramento Center for Spiritual Living and All Is Well Institute Focus Ministry. She's a key advisor and writer for the Center for Spiritual Living spiritual leader, Dr. Edward Villon. Her special focus ministry is healing both our physical bodies and the body politic. Reverend Sarah spent over 20 years as a lawyer and a legislative advocate, working for Medicare for All and labor rights in Congress and in the state of California, their legislature. She lives with her husband of 30 years in an intentional community in downtown Sacramento. Reverend Sarah and I were in the ministerial program together. So we know each other just kind of casually, but most recently, we are both on that committee that is writing up press releases and public statements on behalf of Centers for Spiritual Living. Of course, with the blessing of Dr. Edward Villon, everything has his name on it. So he goes through and tweaks everything. But it's a new journey for me, a new part of this ministry journey. And I'm just really excited to be part of this and sharing this with so many awesome people. And Sarah is one of them. She's got a really unique background, and I am just so looking forward to this conversation. So I'm going to add her in here. Hello, Reverend Sarah. How are you?
Hi, Reverend Cindy.
Yeah, I'm so glad you could join us. Thank you so much. And you're here from California?
Yeah. Smoky
Yeah.
air, wildfires.
Yeah. Which part? You're in Sacramento?
Sacramento, northern, just east of San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, you are kind of in it.
Yeah, we're in it.
Yeah. So how is your community?
Well, the city of Sacramento is pretty safe compared to a lot of other areas because we're at the confluence of two major rivers. So we're protected from the fires by these giant rivers that hold us in their arms. But we have dirty air, and we have friends and relatives evacuating right and left within 20, 30 miles. And it's very scary. It's very sad, and it's very debilitating.
Yeah, well, we absolutely hold you all in prayer, and just, Spirit is working through all of it, know? Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for being here. Really appreciate your taking the time. So, before we get into the conversation about the voter guide, I really just want to, to dive into a little bit more of your ministry. How the heck did you end up becoming a CSL minister after 20 years as an attorney and all of that? So if you want to give us a little snapshot.
Sure. In Washington, I was a real hard-ass advocate lobbyist on Capitol Hill, and a tough customer. I was making people cry, and because if they were wrong, and I was always right and they were always wrong, and that was sort of how I existed there. And I was working with spiritual principle, but I didn't know, principally through lying. I don't know if any of you have ever noticed anybody in politics lying, but I would do things like, I remember one time I said to a member of Congress who I wanted to get on the bill that I wanted him to vote for the bill that I was advocating. And I said, I'm going to be on national television this evening telling them that you're against this if you don't come on this bill. And I had no plans whatsoever to be on national television. I hadn't been offered or anything. And in fact, that evening I was on the PBS NewsHour, and by then he had come around. And then the next day I told a politician that his colleague was one of my biggest supporters and was on the legislation. And so he better get on board. That was a bald-faced lie. And And in fact, he got on board, and then his colleague got on board as a result. And I thought that that was all okay. I just thought it was speaking my word, I guess, and making it happen. It turns out that those um, ethical lines have real consequences. And over time, I became in a lot of emotional pain from all that. And then when we moved out to California, I had we were raising a family out here, and one of our family members got really ill, and I couldn't do anything to help this person. I'm being intentionally vague about who they were for their own privacy, but because it's about me, not them, right? And I was in so much pain. I was in so much pain. I was so positive that I needed to heal them and to help them, and I couldn't help them. And I walked into the Center for Spiritual Awareness in West Sacramento. I'd already been looking for I had a spiritual home in Washington, D.C. In fact, I almost joined the Episcopal seminary right before I got pregnant with our first child. I was in an Episcopal church on Capitol Hill. And then when I came out here, I looked at all the Episcopal churches. I went to a number of much more conventional churches, couldn't find anything that spoke to me the way that did. And then I walked into Center for Spiritual Awareness in just a world of pain, which is part of the Centers for Spiritual Living. And the minister is Reverend Georgia Prescott. And I walked in and I started crying. I just knew I was home. I knew I was going to be a minister there. And then I started using these tools just to make myself feel better. And over time, and I became shown that I was a healer, even though I wasn't healing this dear family member at all. And I began to realize that what healing really was seeing the people around me as whole, perfect, and complete, and being able to know that truth for them so that they could know it for themselves. And but I spent so much time trying to get universal health care, and then I spent so much time trying to get a family member well, that health and healing really intersected, and also politics and personal really intersected, and it all kind of became one thing at a certain point.
Wow, that's fabulous. So you graduated, I think, a year before I did.
Yeah.
And you're still part of that Sacramento community and also have your own healing.
Yeah.
Ministry. Yes. Wonderful. Well, I just, we all have a story, and it's just interesting how I have, similarly, the first time I walked into the Center for Spiritual Living and heard the talk, and the tears started, and it was, probably another 6 months every time I walked in there. It was just, just that letting go of so much stuff and so much pain. And then it's like, wow, I found this amazing thing. I just have to share it with everybody.
Right.
We all kind of go through that. So here we are on this path of sharing. Sharing. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, you've been on the committee longer than I have, and the committee is called SMSC, Spiritually Motivated, Socially Engaged Committee. And we write, again, is that it? Did I do it right?
Not quite. Nobody gets it. It doesn't matter, but it's Spiritually Motivated Social Engagement Committee.
Social Engagement. Gotcha.
Yeah. We're so glad to have you as part of it. You're making a big difference on it. And we're really, really grateful to have Reverend Cindy Grimes in the house, and her background and her knowledge of peace and peace principles and her intersection of so many different worlds. It's just fantastic.
Yeah. I'm glad it's a gift. It doesn't always feel like that.
Gift to us.
Yeah. But it's a great way to work out your stuff. We teach what we want to learn.
Yeah.
And there's all this chaos, all this drama. I'm from a family of, I'm a brown-skinned person from a family of law enforcement officers. And, so there's some intersections there that are really interesting and very timely. So, so tell us about this doc. I just dived in, and I don't feel like I had really anything to do with it other than a little bit of editing, but.
Yeah. Well, first I want to say that what's really calling to me spiritually right now, this week, with all this smoke in California, which connects with what we're talking about, is stop coping and start voting. And there's kind of a tendency with those of us who are consciously walking a spiritual path to use meditation and prayer as a way to feel better about terrible things that are occurring, right? In our whether it's in our personal life or whether it's in the outer realm, but it's affecting our personal life, right? And there's a way in which we can use that to avoid actually like having the feelings be arrows pointed in the direction of our healing. And that can be at the personal level or the collective level, right? Yes. And so right now I'm saying, stop coping. I'm saying to myself, stop coping and start voting, because I don't want to use spiritual tools as a way to kind of just be okay with what's happening right now. Like, and I think there's a through line in spiritual communities where that can be somehow what happens. And this is meant to wake us up. This is like the dashboard light on the car where it says, engine trouble. That's meant to get us to go do something. Exactly. And so, lately I've been feeling like I don't know if you're old enough, Reverend Cindy, to remember Monty Python and the Holy Grail, but in that movie, there's this fight between brave Sir Robin and this knight where he cuts off one arm of the knight and he says, "The fight's over, I've won." And the knight says, "That's a scratch." And then he cuts off the other arm, and the knight says, "Oh, I pray thee, Lord, for guidance in this fight." And he's still fighting. And then he cuts off one of the legs, and the knight says, "Only a flesh wound." And it's not until he cuts off all four of his limbs. And then even so, the guy is screaming on the ground, "Only a flesh wound, you're a coward," because Sir Robin is walking away. And I think that's been a little how I am. They send us a pandemic.
Right.
And then there's
protests
and riots, and then there's an economic depression, and then hurricanes and wildfires. And I'm trying to cope by I'm grateful, I am peaceful, I am this. Well, that's fine, but these feelings are meant to get my attention. They're meant to get all of our attention. And so where do we take that?
Preach.
So the reason why I think this voting guide is landing this year is we need to be able to vote. And voting is just choice. Voting is election. We need to vote in our personal lives. We need to vote for change that works for us. And we need to vote in the body politic for change that works for us. So let me yeah.
I want to say, let me just say that this is kind of a debate even within our movement, right?
Yeah.
In New Thought communities, I don't think it's just us, but Unity also, in that there are people who say that our work is at cause, right? We don't spend our time and our energies and our focus on circumstances out there, that when we change ourselves, we change within, the circumstance will automatically change. So there are people, in our movement who feel like those of us who have an interest in social justice are somehow not being in integrity with New Thought, in that we're looking at circumstance rather than cause.
Yeah, except what gets us into this teaching and to even think about working with spiritual principle in any philosophy, in any religion, right, is that we want to improve our life and we want to improve our world. And so if we're looking at, cause is always the way to change things, but we work backward to cause from what the outpicturing of it is. And I think the problem has been in some parts of our movement is an idea that it's all done at the individual level. that that the only way to do our work around cause is at the individual level. So if my bank account is low, or I don't have the relationship that I want, or I don't have the job that I want, so now it's all on me, and I need to do my work spiritually, and then I'm going to have the job I want, and the relationship I want, and the bank account I want, right? And if I don't, then it's my fault. There's an error of that in our teaching, in our culture anyway. But the thing is that we are in a cosmic democracy where we're all connected. You remember learning in ministerial school, studying Christian De Quincey and the cosmic democracy and intelligence all the way down to every atom, which means we're all connected, right? And we're all connected. And so that means that when there are riots, and there is police brutality, and there is economic depression, and there is a pandemic, and there are fires, that is a reflection of my consciousness. And part of what creates it is my vote. My vote has been, it's a literal and figurative vote, right? The literal vote of voting or not voting, not choosing, could have been part of what allows poverty, racism, climate disaster, etc., to occur.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then figurative voting in the sense of choosing and really focusing on and doing that work in consciousness to weed out the old thoughts and the old beliefs and the old ideas, both and.
Right. But it doesn't have to be either or.
No.
We don't just have to do the inner work. We don't just do the outer work. It's both and.
Yeah.
Meeting people where they are.
Right. I mean, in 2016, I did this event, and it was so funny because, is this okay? Can I take a?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we're going where it goes.
All right. So in 2016, I did this event, and it was really funny because people were like, oh, that's so political. And they really, put out their hands on it. And it was so spiritual. And what I did was, it was called a love-in for Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. And we got together with giant cardboard cutouts of the two candidates. And we sat first and wrote down every judgment we had about both of them. Everyone wrote down every judgment they had. And then we sat and did our work on where those judgments applied to us, where the thing we were saying about Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump applied to us, right? And then we did forgiveness work around that, which was really deep and really powerful. And then we wrote love notes. And we went up and had to put a love note, at least one love note, on both candidates. And we did that. Now, I actually did not like either candidate very well. And I did vote for one of them and not for the other. But that wasn't the point of this, right? The point was that everything that's happening is a reflection of my consciousness. And if I'm angry all the time at one candidate or the other candidate or both candidates, that every finger pointing out is three fingers pointing back at me. So I get a chance to do my work around it. And then how can I vote? How can I vote without being grounded in love and clearing and using those incredibly strong feelings that are coming up as arrows pointing in the direction of my healing and following them, right?
Yeah. Beautifully. Just thank you. Beautifully said.
Probably another one soon, and it'll be fun to do it on Zoom because then people can do it all over the country.
I love that idea. I may borrow that.
or we'll borrow it, or I'll
together.
Facilitate it right here.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it together. So you want to see the guide to voting?
I do want to see the guide to voting.
Want to put it up for me, or click
Okay.
into the room or whatever? Okay.
Yes, there you go.
There it is. Hopefully, can you hear me fine?
Yes.
Okay, good. Some noise happens on the other side of the wall all of a sudden, so I wanted to make sure. So Centers for Spiritual Living Guide to Voting. This is a historic document, and whether you have anything to do with Center for Spiritual Living, you might want to take a look at this, because it is it's really giving us a spiritual way to vote, but it also is giving some practical advice. And here it talks about engagement. It talks about voting our values and vision, what's legal for nonprofit organizations and what's not, like a church or a center is a nonprofit, and then other resources.
Right. So we want to be real clear. We're not telling people which way to vote.
No,
we can't do that, and we're not trying to do that. We're just asking people to do it and to vote from their values and their vision, and to know what our values and vision are.
Exactly. And you seem to have here at this center the same values as the International Centers for Spiritual Living. So these values should look really familiar to everybody who is familiar with this center. These are the values. And then the vision, which you also had a short version of, right, for your center. This is more fully the vision of the, and since I think this is also going to be on the radio and you can't see it, I'll read. The vision is, we see a world that works for everyone. You want to alternate it with me reading it?
Sure. Where all life is honored as expressions of the divine.
Where people live according to spiritual truth.
Where unity and connection is emphasized.
Where humanity awakens to spiritual magnificence.
Where humanity rediscovers personal creative power.
Where we live as one global family.
Where kinship with all life prospers.
Where spiritual guidance is valued.
Where we are called to conscious social action.
Where people have enough food, homes, and a sense of belonging.
Where forgiveness is the norm.
Where there is peace, harmony, and justice for all.
Where there is a renewed emphasis on beauty, nature, creativity, art, and aesthetics.
Yeah, and isn't that beautiful? And don't you feel how it's actually a prayer in and of itself, simply to say it? But we want to come and vote from that vision, not so much to that vision. So an internal understanding of this and connecting with that, grounding your vote in Spirit's highest vision before you vote, and getting centered in a neutral space and asking yourself questions like, which of the candidates for this, whatever office it is, there's candidates all the way up and down a ballot, display values consistent with mine and the vision of the world that works for everyone. And does this ballot measure express I don't know if you have ballot measures in Florida. We do in California.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have them?
We have different things that come up like that.
Locally probably.
Yeah.
Almost all places have it locally, but not all have statewide. I can't remember if Florida does. And does it express the values of the Centers for Spiritual Living, or my values, and its vision of a world that works for everyone? And does this measure reflect a positive direction for all in my community?
Yeah.
I'm just sitting with that, right?
Right. Before we go from this slide, you added my vision, right? It says, because the first part says which of the candidates displays values consistent with those of CSL. And I think it's really important for people to look at their personal values and measure that up against the values of CSL, because you know what? Somebody's values may not link up with ours. Yeah. And, you know, there have been people that came to our center and left and go someplace else, and that is perfectly fine, because if we don't meet your spiritual needs, by all means, find them someplace. But I think it's really vital for people to look at their personal values and maybe even put them in an order. What's the most important thing? And if I'm saying that my family, that I really value my family, then it's up to you to look and see, okay, I'm saying this, but does my life really bear that out? You know, if I'm saying my family is the most important thing, where am I spending my time? Where am I spending my effort? And really look at that and see if you are living in alignment with what you say your values are. Because I think there are people who feel like, yes, I have this value. Of course, I value love. Of course, I value equality. Well, you need to really look and see, is your vote or your perspective really in alignment with what you say it is? Does that make sense? Oh, I think Sarah's frozen. There you are.
Yeah, there was a little
Yeah.
internet, I guess.
So did you hear what I said, or did that?
Yeah, no, I got it. Thank you. I agree. Did you ask me a question?
Well, I just wanted to, to make that statement,
Yeah,
and you heard it because you were frozen.
I think it's important.
Yeah.
Um, and we can make this PowerPoint available to anybody in your center if you want. I can give you a link. I don't know if it's appropriate to put a link in a chat or for other guests, but people can have that, and I can send that out. And I just want to particularly call to people's attention, the Interfaith Power and Light Voter Reflection Guide, which is a wonderful guide of multiple different faith groups, mostly Christian, but also some other faiths that come together around voter reflection. And they actually tackle these different issues of our day: democracy and voting rights, climate justice, loving our immigrant neighbors, and an economy of inclusion, moral health policies in a time of pandemic, restorative and racial justice, respecting the dignity of LGBTQI plus people, and the global common good. And they talk about in each one, more about it. Like, are you interested in any of those in particular, Cindy? I can read you a little something or show it.
Let's go with respecting the dignity of LGBTQI plus.
All right, just one sec. So yeah, it says all people have inherent dignity because everyone is created in the image of God. Our gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender family members, neighbors, and coworkers deserve equal rights and to live without fear or discrimination. This is too often not the case. In many states, LGBTQ people can still legally be denied housing and job opportunities simply because of their sexual orientation or gender identity. LGBTQ youth are disproportionately at risk for self-harm and targeted for violence. And then it goes on about that. And as people of faith, we reject any form of othering and seek to build on an inclusive society. And let me just, let's see if I can actually show you this beautiful picture, because this guide is so, I guess I'd have to stop sharing what I'm sharing now, so I won't do that. But the guide is embedded in this PowerPoint, and it's very beautiful.
It is. I feel very happy to be affiliated with that.
Yeah.
Effort.
And then community engagement. Whatever community you're in, it's appropriate to get out the vote. The census, key dates for the census are not the September 30th. It's coming right up. It's very important that each person be counted. There's a lot of misinformation out there about it. There's no risk to counting yourself. You will not suddenly bring down INS on you if you enter into the census. There's been a lot of effort to try to convince people not to let themselves be counted, but this is how congressional districts are created. And if you undercount people, you actually have fewer electoral votes and congressional districts in your state than you would otherwise. So it has enormous implications for the shape of the presidential and the election and the Congress. So please make sure you turn that in. You can do it online, and it is perfectly safe. Ernest Holmes had a lot to say about engagement. Well, you know this as a minister, Reverend Cindy, but there's a lot of wonderful quotes and about the connection between spiritual life, and we have those in this guide to voting. Can you put the actual guide to voting up on the screen? Is that down below somewhere?
It's not at the moment, but I can find it.
Okay. I can click through it to it. That's what I did before if you want. And then you saw it.
Yeah, go ahead and see. Let's see if that works. Because I was looking for it before.
Let me just do this. Right? If I go over to this, do you see it? If you put it in?
I'm not seeing it yet. Is it okay? So take this out, the guide for spiritual living. Take it out now, or no? Do you have other stuff on that?
You see it now?
Nope.
Okay. No, let's just finish this out and then we can show that.
Okay.
Okay, it's almost through. This is a particularly important piece of it. Vote411.org. I just want to say that over and over again for anybody listening. Vote411.org. That is a nonprofit website. League of Women Voters runs it. It's nonpartisan, nonprofit. It has no opinions about the outcome, but it is where you can check, are you actually registered? Where are you registered? You can register to vote. You can see a first-time voter checklist if you're a first-time voter. You can find out how to vote by mail. Where in your state, in your city, can you vote by mail? What do you have to do to vote by mail if you're worried about going to the polling place? Or if you want to go to the polling place, you can find out where is that polling place. And this is US specific, of course. I don't know if we have international watchers or listeners, but it will tell you. Vote411.org. Very important for everyone to check, because there's a lot of misinformation, some of it deliberate, out there to try to convince people that they're either not registered or they are registered, or that they're in some, and there are states, and I believe Florida is one of them, that have purged aspects of their voter rolls recently. So you do need to double check whether you are actually registered. If you were registered before, it doesn't mean you are registered. And this is the time, because there are various deadlines. So do check, make sure.
Terrific. I did find the PDF of the document.
Oh, cool.
I'm not sure it's the final bit.
All right, well, I'm almost through here. Just the difference between engagement and citizenship and political. Engagement is legal and political is not legal in a nonprofit. So you can do all these things in your center or your nonprofit: voter ID, taking positions on legislations and ballots, ranking candidates on CSL values, inviting candidates to speak, all that kind of stuff. The only thing you can't do is endorsing candidates, endorsing political parties, inviting only one party or candidate and not others, or handing out candidate campaign information.
Yeah.
And then more sources. And I have this little quote here, which I like. What if 2020 isn't canceled? What if 2020 is the year we've been waiting for? A year so uncomfortable, so painful, so scary, so raw that it finally forces us to grow. A year that screams so loud, finally awakening us from our ignorant slumber. A year we finally need to accept the need for change, declare change, work for change, become the change. A year we finally band together instead of pushing each other further apart. 2020 isn't canceled, but rather the most important year of them all. Leslie Dwight.
Love that. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
It's been a big year. It's been a big year, but we know that change is always preceded by that time of kind of chaos and sometimes destruction, and it's not always comfortable. It doesn't feel good, but we are headed for something better. Now, the time frame of that, we don't know that either, right? But we do know that, and we do hold and know the truth. So, gosh, that was awesome. Is there, I'm looking right now at our comments here, and the last one, birthing is painful. I don't know if you can see the comments, Sarah.
Look at all those comments.
Yeah, we've got Reverend Rodney Gittins with us, and some folks from the center, which is lovely. Fabulous. So we do a little gathering after this, and I think I might have mentioned it. I'm not sure if I did. And if you are available to do that, would be awesome. But I know that you're also, this is your second gig today. So anyway, we would love to have you for anybody that may want to ask some questions or anything.
Yeah, I'll hang out. I'll hang out.
Okay, terrific. So there will be a Zoom link going out in the chat, and we will provide it to you separately, Sarah.
Cool.
Is there anything else that you want to add in closing?
No, that's it. I love your little center, and I'm very big center, growing center, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so happy you joined us. I'm going to bring, well, no, I was going to bring Donna in, but it looks like she's busy. Yeah?
I could
I'm
take us
in.
in a prayer.
There she is.
Hi.
So I didn't know if you had any questions, anything you guys wanted to ask or share or anything like that.
No, I was feverishly taking photos of the screen so that I could have the PowerPoint information for myself. I know that I personally have gone through, some anxiety around the voting because I want to make sure I make a good, informed decision. My biggest thing right now is trying to figure out where each candidate stands on different topics, and I have no clue where to go to get that information. Right now, every time I try to get the information, I get like inundated by all this extra opinions of people from different sides. And I just need to know exactly what each person thinks on each important, being LGBTQ ourselves, we want to know what everybody feels about towards certain things. So there's got to be one true central place that we can go and get that information. So I'm hoping that I can get that.
Well, I think that on that League of Women Voters site, you should be able to get that as well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Non-partisan, non-judgment, just facts.
Yeah, that's a great resource, the League of Women Voters. So did you say you wanted to pray us out for this section?
I'd be happy to.
That would be awesome. I will take myself and Donna out of the stream and let you have it.
Ooh.
Ooh, all right.
Oh, so let's just take a breath. Use it to remember the only thing happening here. One heart, one mind, one infinite presence in, as, and through all things. And dial into it and feel that unlimited love, unlimited power of the one, beyond time, beyond space, beyond expectations, beyond limitation, beyond precedent. And so I know that that one is operating here. I'm so grateful that that one love is providing more than enough. Food, shelter, clean air, clean water, clothing, and love for every person, man, woman, or child in the entire world. That every single person goes to bed with a full belly and a full heart tonight. That love is providing, that love is transcending barriers. It is transcending Republican and Democrat. It transcends poverty and racism. It transcends homophobia. It transcends Islamophobia. It transcends all the polarities, all the thoughts, beliefs, opinions, conclusions, swearings, bindings, bondings, and judgments that we made in this lifetime or in any lifetime. It transcends all of them. It doesn't oppose them. It doesn't push them down. It doesn't protest. It transcends. It reveals, it heals, and it votes. It votes for a world that works for everyone. It has always voted for that, and it is voting through all of us as we align ourselves with that love today. As we choose and make the only choice we really have in this world that matters, whether to be or not to be love. We choose to be love. We chose to vote with love. We choose to move our feet with love. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, great big love. I upload all of this to the 3D printer of the law and love, and I push print and I push send and simply await the formality of it printing in 3D reality. Thank you, love. Thank you, love. Thank you, love. And so it is. Amen.
And so it is. I love when I get a new metaphor. Ah, thank you for the 3D printer. Hit send. Oh, thank you, Sarah. We'll see you afterward in Zoom.
Okie dokie.
I'm going to go ahead and close us out. Love and blessings. See ya. All right, so that was awesome. I hope that everyone took away a little something that they could use, some resource. We'll be sure to make the PowerPoint available to anyone who might want it so that you can have those links and be able to go back and do your research so that you can really vote from a place of conscious awareness and your values. So it is time for us to share our gifts and tithes. Let's see what we have here. I'm going to sharing our gifts. This is our affirmation. And here we go. And this is how you can do it. We've made it very, very easy for people to be able to do it. You can go to our website, or you can text message the number that is scrolling below, 352-320-5110. And what you do is you put the amount that you want to send, whether it's $20 or $200, we accept it all. Or you can go to our website and also donate that way. And we just appreciate every donation. We have a physical location, and we have bills just like any other place, and we want to be able to keep bringing you these programs and this service and classes. And we are very much looking forward to being able to gather again in small groups. We probably will not be gathering in the larger group. I don't know, maybe not through the end of the year, but we're making some provisions and working on some ideas to be able to use our space on a more regular basis and start up classes again and maybe some other small gatherings. So be on the lookout for that. And so this is our affirmation for those who are sharing their gifts. It is the nature of life to give of itself. As it is the tree's nature to bear fruit and the flower's nature to bloom, it is my nature to share the gifts of my time, talent, and treasure. I participate in the divine flow of life, giving generously and receiving abundantly. I am blessed and I am a blessing. I am so grateful. And so I just affirm and know that that is the truth for every one of us here in this space, that everyone is a blessing. And that those blessings, that as we give, we receive, and the blessings just keep becoming this wonderful snowball of good for everyone. And so that brings us then to our closing and our prayer for protection. If you look in the chat, you'll see the link for the Zoom conversation that will happen afterward. We always have just a little gathering of folks to kind of catch up with one another. And Reverend Sarah will join us. So if you have any questions or any comments you want to offer, that would be a great opportunity to do that. So I look forward to seeing those of you who can join us on Zoom. And we'll close out with this prayer for protection that comes from our friends at Unity and James Dillett Freeman. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And I just know and affirm and pray that each and every one of you has a fabulous week, and know that you have every resource needed to meet and exceed whatever challenge is before you. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. And that's it. Love and peace. We'll see you again soon.